Hello, this is my first devlog. I mean, it's not a devlog, I guess, but it's just a video on something I've been making for like a little while now, maybe like 2 months or maybe a little over that. And I haven't got a huge amount to show, but I thought it'd be cool to start making videos of it. Um, so I've already done a fair bit. So this video is just to show off what's been done. Um, and then hopefully I'll as I make more improvements and changes, I'll make videos maybe about those. So I'll see. Um, what I'm really making is like a completely customizable online chess game. So there are some things online where you can make custom pieces and stuff, but I've tried them and I don't really think they're that custom. I don't think they're that good. I'll be honest, I don't think they're good at all. You don't really get like much customization. Um, you can't really be very specific on how you want to make your pieces. So I've been doing something like that for trying to make um, something where you can customize it as much as you want. And I'm nowhere near done, but I've gotten to a pretty alright point, I suppose. Um, in the future, I also want to add like customizable boards and squares. I've got some ideas for different types of squares or cells or whatever you call it. I don't know, but yeah. So I'll show it off. Um, so honestly, on the client side, there's not much work been done, so there's not that much to show. I have to start my server. Hopefully this should run not too slow. It usually runs fine, but I'm hosting this over from my computer, and that's usually fine. But I have OBS open, so it hopefully shouldn't be too slow. But OBS is, I'm working on a laptop, so yeah. All right, okay. So let me just create a separate tab. Let me just sometimes it refreshes, so just change that. Okay, so we can just straight away start joining a game. So yeah, right now you have to like join a room because it's just for like testing. I'll probably just make something where you can just join a room and it'll pair it up with someone who also wants to join a room. But right now it's just this. Ignore these three. Those are for testing purposes. Should know a bit later. I should probably talk about the main part of the game, which is how I'm customizing it. So right now you can't actually customize it on the site. I just haven't done it. I've barely done anything client side. I'm fine with showing all the client side code. It's all public. And to be honest, there's there's a fair amount of files, but as for stuff that's in it, it's not like crazy amount. Wow, this is slow. OBS is not friendly. So yeah, I'll probably add something where you can actually create the customizable pieces and add them to the board. Yeah. So for now, I'll just go over like what I'm doing to create these customizable pieces. So right now, all the pieces work. Oh, I should mention, right now, there is no castling and en passant and like promotion. Not because I just haven't gotten around to adding it, it's because I want to save it for something I want to call abilities. So I'll go over that later. But yeah, right now there's none of that. So you can attack, but there's no promotion. I mean, I am detecting checks, but I'm not doing anything with that, and I also don't think that pinning is working. That is just because I'm lazy. and I haven't gotten around to it, but it shouldn't be that hard. So yeah, maybe what should I do? Okay, yeah, I'll show how I'm doing the move pattern. So I kind of want to be a bit careful because I'm gonna show my server side code, but it should be okay because I'm just showing this stuff, which is fine. It should be fine. Okay. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking like, okay, as a user, if I want to create a piece, I'll have to type out all this and stuff, then no. I'm gonna make it as easy as possible. So this move pattern and attack pattern and eventually other stuff shouldn't be where you have to actually type out and understand exactly what's going on. There will be help I'm gonna add. So the first thing you might notice is the equation for a move pattern and attack pattern. So move pattern is just how it can move. So the pawn, it can move along lines x equals 0 and x equals 0 because it can move. Okay, so let me first explain what I mean by this. When I say x equals 0, basically I'm taking the coordinate grid and I'm shifting the origin onto the position of the piece, right? So I'm like shifting well, no, I'm not actually shifting, but yeah, okay, let's say I'm shifting it, and I'm shifting the origin onto the piece, and then 0, 0 becomes here, or here, or whatever. And so when I say x equals 0, that doesn't mean x equals 0 of the board, because, you know, technically, because I'm pretty sure the board, it's like 0, 0 is like here, right? So x equals 0 would be this. But we don't want that, because if I said this pawn's move pattern is x equals 0, and I'm referencing the board's one, then it will only be able to move on this way, which we don't want. So you shift it onto the not the center of the piece, but its position, which is like the top left or something, and then you calculate. So you'll be able to move along this way, and then for a knight, you can maybe guess it's going to be y equals 2x. So y equals half x, y equals minus 2x, and y equals minus half x. And then for a queen, y equals x, and y equals minus x, right, x equals 0, y equals 0. Yeah. That's pretty much it. And I really like this system because you can really customize it. You know, like one, I think I had two options for how I want to do this. One option was where you want, if you created a piece, you'd specifically select the squares around it on which you can move. But I really think this is much more like cooler and elegant. It's my own sort of method. I mean, maybe it's not the most efficient, but I think it's good. I think it's alright. You know, it's not awful. Direction. Okay, so there's 7 directions you can put currently: up, down, left, right, and both. It's pretty much self-explanatory. And then relative x, relative instance x, and relative instance y. And I'll get back to that once I've talked about instances and all that stuff. Iteration, you might be able to guess what that is. It's just how many, you know, squares it can move from the square it's starting on. So let me explain what I mean. So the first instance of where so if let's have a pawn, it moves on x equals 0, and I want to start counting how many squares it can move up. I'm going to start counting on the first instance square, which is self. So self is just the self square. Start counting on this square. Okay, so then it's going to count. And how much should I count? What's the iteration? Well, it's 1. So it's 1. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Oh, crap. crap. That's a really old bug. Oh, I can't be asked to fix that right now. How did I break that again? Let me see if I can fix that really quick. I really shouldn't be showing this, so I'll probably just cut this out the video. Oh yeah. Okay, I know why. Wait, I think I know why. No, I'm pretty sure I know why. Put an exclamation mark. Okay, that maybe should fix it. It's because I recently just pushed and... Yeah, why is it... Okay, hopefully that should work. Honestly, there's a really good chance it just doesn't work. Oh. Let me restart the server. Oh no, it restarts itself. Yeah. Okay. Let's test this. Okay, nice. Jeez. That reason is because... So that bug is happening because I recently redid the ID system for how I'm IDing where their location is. So yeah, I forgot to change that. Oopsies. I kind of just showed the server-side code, but honestly, it's not that bad. Okay, I should stop showing it. But yeah, I'm just showing the piece stuff. I'm not showing exactly how I'm calculating it, because a lot of that is in pattern maths, which I don't really want to show. But honestly, even if I showed it, you wouldn't be able to do much with it. You know, hopefully, you know. Yeah. So I'll probably just keep all that in. I can't be asked to cut it out. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so it just counts one iteration. So at the beginning it's 2. I'll go over that a bit later. But so let's do for a rook. So a rook, it's going to count. So for a rook, instead of having it be 1, I set it to E, which it used to mean something, and I'll definitely change that. Probably make it something else. But yeah, E used to stand for something. But now it just means go to the end. Maybe it stands for end. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyway, so instead of having it 1, you just go until you reach the end of the board. Okay. So I said first instance can be self. It can also be other stuff. It can be square, which will be the first square. Now that seems kind of dumb, and it is. Why do you want to create a square that starts why do you want to create a piece that starts counting on the first instance of a square? Because if I set like the first instance to a square, and the iteration was 1, then it would just move. It would start counting there, and it would go to there. So you could move 2 squares. But then why not just set the first instance to self and make the iteration 2? Yeah. The reason I added square is because in the future I'm thinking of adding different types of squares. One of those ideas is like a square you can't move on, like a void square, not even like a square, just like a tile you can't move onto. So the first instance being square would mean that you could avoid that and start counting from there. So if it was like iteration of 1, then it would be start counting there, iteration of 1 there, so you could move to there and there, and you can't move there because it's like a void or whatever. So yeah, that was my idea. But right now, yes, it's not that useful. And first instance can also be enemy piece, and so an enemy piece is really useful. it's used for most attacking ones. So for pawn, it's not used. But for like a rook, so for example, for a rook, I don't want to start counting from myself, because if I did that, if I so for a rook, we're also using the same thing, x equals 0 and y equals 0. If I started counting like the move patterns from the self, and I did like 1, then I could only attack if it was right next to me. And if I did E, then well, actually, if I did E and I had blocking, then yeah, it would work. But let's say I wanted to attack a piece that's 2 depth in, right? So yeah, if I had E, then it would work. And I had blocking, so then I would attack all these pieces, but then this piece blocks that one, right? Okay, sure. But let's say I wanted to have a rook that attacks this piece and this piece, so an iteration of 2. Okay, and let's say that this pawn wasn't there. Then I wouldn't be able to do that because I'm counting from myself, right? So if I had an iteration of E, then it would just count that one if I have blocking, let's say, and if I don't, then I would just count all of it. And if I did an iteration of 2, then it would just count that one, because it would be start with that one, okay, nothing's there, and then that one, okay, something is there, so one's 2, and if it was 1, so then it's just nothing. But if we start on the first instance of an enemy piece, then we start on that one, and then we do an iteration of 0, because we don't want to count one more. But this is one of the testing pieces I was using, and as you can see, I'll show it to you at the bottom. This has a iteration of 1. Okay, ignore this, I'll get back to it later. Yeah, ignore the direction of relative instance x, relative instance y. I'll talk about that a tiny bit later. But it starts counting on the first enemy piece. So let me just get rid of this. It goes to the first enemy piece, and then it iterates one more. So now you can attack a piece of depth 2, or depth 1, whatever you want to call it, right? So this is really customizable, I think. I don't think any other game has this. I don't know, maybe. I honestly don't know. But I searched up a couple, games where you can create your own pieces, and you really can't do anything like that. So that's pretty cool, I think. It's not really used that much. In fact, what I've noticed from making this game is all the base pieces are pretty simple, apart from how like a pawn and can do like en passant and a king and castle. Most pieces, their move patterns are pretty simple, which is good, I think. I really want to make this game not too complicated. I don't want players or users to make pieces that are crazy, that have like a direction of like left, iteration of 5, and then like another one, they're like a direction of up, iteration of E, and they can be blocked by everything apart from a knight, and they repeat every 6 moves and all that stuff, because then it gets too complicated. You can make that. Yeah, I guess, yeah, you could create some fun scenarios, but I think what's more fun is creating simpler pieces that are just like complex in a tiny area, because then you can create a bunch more puzzles. Well, not puzzles, but scenarios. And I think that's going to make the game a lot more fun, right? Let's say you're given a piece at the start of a game. Let's see, so you enter a game with all the base pieces, but with like, instead of a knight, or instead of bishops, you have this piece that can, I don't know. Okay, so for this piece, this is a custom piece that I made. Right now it can't move. It can only, its first instance is its ally piece, so it can only move one iteration after the ally piece. Okay, that's maybe a bit too harsh, but let's say it's a piece that can only move it can only move on the first instance of its ally piece, then it can kind of be fun, right? I think that's kind of fun. So if we made the iteration instead of 1 be E, let me do that real quick. Actually, I don't really want to do that, because then we'd have to restart the whole server. You can imagine though, because right now it's actually I think it's 0. Is it 0? No, it's 1. Rook 1. Okay, yeah, this one. Yeah, my mistake, yeah, because it's the device instance, then iteration of 1. Okay, yeah. If it was 0, then it wouldn't work, because, yeah. So if it was an iteration of E, then you'd be able to move all the way there. But if you moved that, then you couldn't. So it'd be like a reverse blocking scenario. If you wanted to move, you had to be blocked, which I think creates like a bunch of puzzles. I think that's really fun. So yeah, that's like one idea. I don't want plays to create too complex pieces. Okay, let me move on. So blockables is just what it can be blocked by. So this piece can be blocked by both allies, and all enemies, and that's pretty much the same. You can be more specific, so you can type like blocked by everything apart from like knights or something. I don't know. I'm gonna make this more customizable, so I want to add tags, so it can be blocked by anything apart from pieces that have like a health of like 2. Oh, what the hell? Of 2. Health I will go over soon. I haven't added tags yet because I just thought of that idea today. So, yeah. I don't want to press Control S because then it's going to restart the server. Okay. Pre-instance blockables. Not a fun thing to talk about. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. I kind of have to. Alright, let me scroll down. So, pre-instance blockables is, I mean, you can kind of tell what it means. Okay, so the problem with having a rook whose direction is both. Okay, let me first talk about what happens if its direction is both. If the first instance is the enemy piece, right? Okay, let me just, okay, I can, okay, let me just move that out of the way. If the first instance is the enemy piece, right, this one, then, and the direction is set to both, because a rook can attack in both directions, right? It can do that. So it can attack in this direction and this direction. But the problem with setting the first instance and having that direction be both is that it starts iterating both ways, which first of all doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If I'm finding the first piece, then why am I counting both ways? I should only be counting in one direction. And the second problem is that what was it? I think that is a problem, pretty much, right? Yeah. Oh right. Second problem is with the pre-instance blockables, because yeah, if I start counting backwards and I have pieces there that are in the squares that have been found by the iteration, then those don't count as then those count as blockables, right? Because those pieces that are blocking the squares are found inside squares that have been found from the first instance square, right? Does that make sense? So let's move that back. Move that back a bit more. Let me actually. Oh crap! I should have. Let me just. Oh shit! Why did I move that? Okay, let me just move this. Right? Does that make sense? If I started counting both from here, and when I count it back, and then there are pieces, and then okay, because that's not a problem. But if there was a piece there, and I start counting back an iteration of 2, then it's not gonna see that this pawn is blocking the rook, because it's technically not. right? If I'm starting counting from here and I count backwards 2 squares and I count forwards 2 squares, nothing is blocking it, right? Does that make sense? It makes intuitive sense to me. Nothing is blocking it inherently. So I need to start looking. So that's the first reason. So to get over the both stuff, I'm putting the first instance y and first instance x. So just only look in the direction from where the enemy piece, the first instance piece, in this case is the enemy piece, is relative to the piece that is moving. Right? This one's x is greater than this, so only look for pieces that are equal to or greater than that. Does that make sense? So then these pieces here, these squares here, there's nothing in them, but they're not going to be counted as instance found squares. I don't call them, there's nothing in the code calling them instance found squares, but that's how I'm describing it, right? Instance found squares. And then for this one, so then, okay, we fixed that now, great. Let's say, okay, great, we've got a rook, and it's only looking at pieces that are here. But how am I going to know what pieces are here, what squares are even here, and if they're occupied and if they're blocking it? So that's pre-instance blocking. So pre-instance blocking, it looks at the squares in between. It doesn't actually find the squares in between. How do I do it? I forgot. I think I found the iteration from the self and did it that way. I don't want to show it because then I think I don't want to really show any server-side code. It's not like very safe. But I think that's how I did it. Yeah, probably that makes sense. So pre-instance blocking, if I didn't have that, then I would just be able to attack these pieces because there's nothing telling me that I can't. But here, pre-instance blocking, is this rook 2? It's saying block all allies for pre-instance blocking. The reason I have block all enemies is I have the enemies is just like a logical reason, because if I had enemy pieces here, then this would no longer be my first instance square. It would be like this one, right? So yeah, I mean, you can technically add enemy blocking and nothing will happen. It will work exactly the same because yeah, why wouldn't it? Like, you're never going to have a scenario where the first instance square is an enemy piece and it looks like this square, but then you have enemy pieces in between. That makes no sense, right? So yeah, it'll work. I'll just, I don't know. I mean, it won't make it slower. I guess technically it will, but it'll be negligible, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, but like, I think stuff like that I should maybe make more apparent to users so they don't do it. Anyway, okay, gaps. You can sort of get what that means. A repeating gap just repeats. So let me, you know what? Maybe I will restart the server so I can change it right now. So I will eventually add something where, let me do it for a rook. So has an iteration of e. So rook can move to the end, and let's give it a repeating iterative gap of 2. Okay, so every second move, it should have a gap. Hopefully, if this doesn't break. Right. Yeah, sometimes this happens. If I close the server without leaving a room, I should probably fix that. Okay. Okay, so we can see it working. So it's moving. So it's got a gap every 2. So it's got a gap there, it's got a gap there. It would be able to move there if that person wasn't there, and I would have a gap there. So, oh right, I forgot to make it for the other one. Let me do that. So yeah, so this is actually a good thing. It's really customizable. I can make it move in upwards in one direction, and so not upwards on, well, yeah, upwards and downwards in one direction, left and back in one direction, or I can make it move up in one direction, down in like another direction, to the right, and like a bishop, and then this way like a weird knight or something. I don't know, but it's really customizable. I think it's really customizable. Let me make that 2 as well. Actually, I'll make that nothing, so it's easier for me to move out. Jeez, I need to fix that. Okay, this should work. Just move that piece out of the way, and there we go. So it's got a gap every 2. Right, and then you can probably guess what specific iterative gap is. It's just, instead of repeating every 2, it's just on the second one. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to, we're nearly at the end. Repeating conditions and specific conditions. So you might have noticed that the pawn has this. So the pawn is the only piece in the core game that has this, because on the first move it can move 2, right? So you might be able to work it out, but it can move its normal up 1, right, repeating every 1 move. So don't relate this to that. This is something different. So it repeats every 1 move. Okay, so if I had it on 2, then it would only be able to move up every second move. So every round or whatever. Sorry, not every round. I'm doing it based on the number of times the pawn moves. So for example, if you, okay, let's say, let me just touch up a chessboard. Wow, my laptop is slow. If you wanted to move the pawn up by 1, and you moved it up by 1, you wouldn't be able to move that pawn up by 1 until you moved it again. Right? So that does create a possibility of it just being not able to move. So this repeating stuff should only be used in a company with repeating patterns that repeat every other move, or repeat on that there'll never be a situation where it can never move, right? Because it's not basing it on the round. Okay, if I move that pawn and then I move all my other pieces, doesn't matter, because I've only moved that pawn once, so I can't move it again. So it repeats every 2 moves, right? For this one where I can move 2, that's the condition if it was 2. It's 1 though. For this one, I can only move it on the specific condition where it's on move 0. Okay, so it's on move 0, and once that, it's never going to be on move 0 again. It's always going to be on, like, I don't know, 10. Well, actually, I'm not sure it can ever go on 10. It can go on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, it'll be at most 6 for a pawn. So yeah, that's what it means pretty much. I guess I could. I mean, I did demonstrate that, so yeah. But that allows you to be really more customizable. So you can create pieces that only you can only move or attack. By the way, everything that I'm talking about can be applied to attack patterns. Okay, it's all the same. So you can attack a piece, for example, only in like a specific direction in a specific way with a certain damage, only on like your 10th move. So that would encourage the player to move that piece as much times as they could. You know, I think it creates a bunch more strategy. Abilities is what I was talking about at the beginning. That I have not even begun working on because I'm not exactly sure how I want to do it. Because I don't want to just have like castling and stuff. I want to have like explosion abilities, you know, swapping, teleportation. I want there to be abilities where you can alter the opponent's move patterns, for example, and attack patterns. I want, like, I don't know, hopscotch abilities and stuff like that. So I haven't really figured out a way of how I want to format it. Because, okay, I know this is like, I know like all programmers say this, but it shouldn't be that hard to add. Okay, it really shouldn't. It's just I don't know how I want to format it so that it'll be easier for the user to use them, right? Yeah, that's pretty much it. The only difference for the attack patterns is that they have damage, because pieces can have a health greater than 1, which is pretty self-explanatory. If you're trying to attack them, it'll just decrease their health by whatever damage it is. You can make it auto, which auto kills them, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Spawn pods, it's, yeah, so that's A2 on the chessboard for the white pawn. And then, yeah, so healable. Third part of the game I might want to add is healing. It really shouldn't be that hard to add, I say. Just like a separate thing. Move patterns, attack patterns, and heal patterns. So yeah, that shouldn't be too bad. Attackable is just whether it's attackable. So all pieces are attackable apart from the king. I'm pretty sure I was set to, and then checkable. All pieces are checkable apart from all pieces are not checkable apart from the king. I think that could allow for a cool game mode where you have multiple things you have to check at the same time to get a complete checkmate. And then, you know, so let's say you had like 2 kings on the board, or not even 2 kings. Let's say you had a king, and then like you also have to checkmate a knight or something, or like another piece. And you have to checkmate them, or they have to be both checkmated at the same time. I think that's really cool. Or they have to, yeah, no, yeah. I think that can allow for some cool game modes. I know that doesn't seem like much for like 2 months of work, maybe like over like close to 3. And that's because I can't really show the code. And I think I redid it like probably like 4 or 5 times, because this is like my first big JavaScript project. I've been doing it for a little while, but yeah, probably my first big one, I would say. I can go into my planning stuff for stuff I want to add. Right, yeah, I want to add so conveyor belt squares, so squares that where you would move, so the squares would move. Heal patterns, yes. Resurrect pieces was an idea for an ability. Yeah, I don't see why not. Sure. Yeah, but I think that would be like a game mode. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yeah. You can see it's named Fantasy Chess, but that is not the name, because I couldn't get anything related to that. I don't want to say the name I have planned. I mean, I doubt anyone will watch this video, but just in case anyone does, I don't want them to buy the URL that I'm thinking of. But yeah, it's not going to be called Fantasy Chess. So, yeah. Alright, that's how long have I been recording for? 3 minutes. Okay. Yep, that's pretty much it. My next thing to add will probably be some extra stuff with the patterns, and then either heal patterns, which shouldn't be that bad, and then either customizable squares or abilities, or I will finally add the checking and stuff. So yeah, lots to come. Alright, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching.